You mentioned Kalen DeBoer. My question for him, as with everybody else, I'll be honest, my doubt with him when he took that job from Washington going to Alabama was, all right, yeah, you can coach football. There's no denying that. Can he swim with the Sharks, though, when it comes to recruiting in the SEC? Still extremely early, but right now Bama is pushing for a top 5, top 3 class, depending on what happens on signing day. What do you make of what Kalen DeBoer has done in a very short period of time on the recruiting trail out there in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, I have a column on this at On3 that I encourage folks to go check out. I mean, I think that there was a lot of skepticism, and it was not unwarranted when he was hired. You know, I kind of deemed it when he was hired that he was a fish out of water and an unconventional hire for Alabama, but that didn't mean he was a bad choice or couldn't swim with the Sharks, like he said. We just had to see it. And, you know, he infamously had never signed a top 150 prospect. Well, he then, you know, immediately beat out Auburn for a legacy kid and 5-star Ryan Williams, you know, the wide receiver there. Ends up keeping the bones of what Nick Saban built, and they inked the number 2 class. Okay, most of those guys were Nick Saban guys. Well, now in 25, they're not signing up to play for the GOAT. They're not signing up to play for the godfather of recruiting. They're signing up to play for Kalen DeBoer, who to date, as we sit here at the end of June, is recruiting as well as Nick Saban had been recruiting the last couple of years. And so that's just extremely impressive. And I think, as I noted in my column, they're not doing it the same way. And the new landscape of NIL, which Saban wasn't crazy about, seems to actually play better for a guy like DeBoer, who is kind of considered this X's and O's savant, game day wizard. Yeah, maybe he isn't quite as dogged in a living room. He doesn't have to be. If you are willing to invest the resources that your program has and you hire a staff around you that really are, you know, kind of in that, you know, they're willing to go, you know, rub grease and get their elbows dirty in the SEC wars of the recruiting, then you're going to be fine. And the Alabama brand doesn't seem to be losing any steam. And so if they continue to recruit the way they're recruiting right now, which, like you teased, I mean, it could be a top 3, top 2, top 5 recruiting class. I mean, that should scare the hell out of the rest of the country, because Kalen DeBoer, whether it was at Sioux Falls, where he won a couple, you know, NIH championships, or Indiana, where he turned Michael Penix into who he eventually became, then what he did at Fresno State, and then, you know, he took Washington from a 4-8 team to going 25-3, you know, in 2 years. That was not with a ton of talent. And now he does have access to some of the best players in the country. And if they continue to land them and those guys continue to flock to Tuscaloosa, that's going to be bad news for, I think, a lot of other programs, especially a bunch of SEC schools that were like, hey, we're about to clean up in a post-Saban world. And it looks like that's going to be a lot harder to pull off.
And that's the thing. I feel like if you're a team that recruits against Bama and you've been going against Saban for the better part of the last 15 years, and you're like, okay, this is our chance now. Like the door is propped open. It's our time now. And then Kalen DeBoer does what he does right now on the recruiting trail. The scary thing too, Jesse, like if they win, if they start having success to where they're just playing for a conference title his first year there, and you can pitch the idea of, hey, this is step 1 of the DeBoer era. Step 4, step 5 is all the way up there. We're winning national titles. Like if you come to Alabama, Nick Saban's not here anymore, but you can still accomplish the same things you wanted to accomplish if you were coming here to play for the GOAT. Like at that point, it's kind of a chicken or the egg situation where, recruiting equals winning and winning equals recruiting. That to me would be the proof of concept that would terrify me from anybody else in college football, much less the SEC. That's where they really start cooking.
Absolutely.
It's interesting, man. It's very, very interesting. On the field for Alabama, I have bought all the stock I can in Jalen Milroe based on what Kalen DeBoer has done with quarterbacks over the course of the last couple of seasons, Michael Penix being the latest case. Milroe, obviously a different player, but I have to believe that, like I said, Brent Venables does defense, Kalen DeBoer does offense. Where do you sit with Alabama heading into 2024 in terms of maybe how optimistic you are when it comes to what they could do on the field?
I'm someone that is. I mean, I have Alabama. I think in my post spring, post portal rankings, I think I had them like 3 or 4. So I have them firmly as a legitimate national championship contender, not somebody that's in that third or fourth tier. That I think some folks maybe had Alabama circled for this kind of 9-3 ish type season post Saban. I don't see it. I mean, and I'm high on Jalen Milroe's upside and potential as well. But I think, frankly, JD, this is going to be a team that's just going to be hell on wheels to block, and I would say that both offensively and defensively. I think the offensive line, when you get the boomerang transfer of Proctor coming home, you then get the center from Washington, who is an all-conference player. You have Booker there. I mean, what they have up front, that 5-man offensive line, it really started to gel by the end of the year. You saw it against Georgia in the SEC championship game. I think it could be even better this year. Then you add in the tailbacks, Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, what they have there. And I think Milroe's legs are going to be a huge focal point of the offense. Kalen DeBoer did not have to do that as much, obviously, with Michael Penix, but he has shown historically if he has a guy that can move, he's going to use it. And so I think Alabama, there are certainly like, how is a young secondary going to grow? They're going to have some pains, I think, early in the season, but they got a couple 5-star freshmen there who they're super high on. Have they done enough in the portal? TBD. But again, I think that they, have a really nice defensive line that it's going to say, hey, that's going to assuage some of those issues if you can't block us. So
the new era of Bama football is here. It's so weird. Like, we're going to go to SEC Media Days in Dallas, and we're going to see the Alabama head coach take the podium, and it's not going to be Nick Saban. There's not going to be a whole lot of ites during that media segment, but nonetheless, it's around the corner. We are so close to college football. It feels like the confetti just dropped in Houston, and we have week 0, like 50 some odd days away, 60 some odd days away. Like, it's here. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.